great pressure, forced him into a mistake. And, Elijah was there to capitalize. And then, Kevin was frustrated. Kevin could have been better there at the end of regulation. And he made a great check and alerted David to what was going on. And you saw David kind of run with him. And, Kevin was able to come out of the post, make a good call, and, just a huge play. 3
overtimes like that. In 3 different times you've had to go to overtime. That's the toughest way to do it. What's that say about you guys that go as long as it takes?
Yeah, I just think that's, it's the whole thing about not being a front runner. I don't know. You probably have been on some teams or been a part of some teams. You go down 14-0. Guys are bitching and complaining and trying to start fights on the sidelines. I never worry about that stuff. These guys are confident in their abilities to make plays and come back. And you don't want to be in that position. But if you find yourself in that position, there's only one. We put ourselves in that position. We're the ones that have to get ourselves out.
How big was
Mike Vrabel talking about the victory by the Tennessee Titans over the Colts. And, Mike, as a practical matter, it ends the AFC South. It's over. It's done. Yeah. The Titans now have a 3-game lead plus the head-to-head tiebreaker. So, to put it in baseball terms, the Colts got to make up 4 with 9 games left. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And the Jaguars and the Texans, the other 2 teams, it's not happening. For the Titans, the question is, how high can they climb up the playoff tree? Can they get that bye? And I talked to Kevin Byard, who had the interception in overtime yesterday. He said that's our sight now, is to try to get that bye that they're going to try to push after what they've managed to do the past few weeks. And right now, they at 6-2, technically the best record because they played 8 games and they have 2 losses. And I think they're the only team with 2 losses that has 6 wins to tie to it. Technically, you'd make them the 1 seed, but obviously that's premature. But it's not premature for them to think that they have a shot at it.
No, it's not. And that's where some teams are. With the Vikings loss, you look at the Packers that way. You look at Dallas with their win. They're looking at it that way. You're beyond the division. And certainly that's where the Titans are as well. They're beyond the division, and you start to look at forecasting for the playoffs now because everybody would like, as we mentioned earlier, the road to run through their city, or if not, at least get that bye. I've been impressed with the Titans' defense. I think is playing better. They've now won 2 games where Derrick Henry has not gone over 100 yards, and they haven't gone over 100 yards as a team. So a team that relies on Derrick Henry to be the hammer, especially when you get to the 4th quarter that he just batters you. So he hasn't gotten those yards he normally gets in the last couple of games, and yet this team is finding a way to get it done. And Byard, a 42-yard penalty in the end zone to put the Colts in a position to tie that game. And then this is a guy, listen, he's a hell of a player. He vows at that point, I got to make a play, and that's exactly what he does. In overtime, though, another head scratcher by Carson Wentz, not to, that first one, whatever he's doing, flipping it with his left hand in the end zone for a touchdown there was just unbelievable. It was going to be a screen to the tight end. He looked like he was just going to try and do what he should have done, just throw the ball in the dirt at the feet of the tight end. For whatever reason, he didn't do it, and he could have done it, though there was a lineman in the way. Maybe he thought he couldn't get it there or whatever, but it was a horrible decision. And then, quite honestly, that interception by Barrett, there was no reason to throw the ball there. You have time. You have just under 6 minutes. It's first down. You have a wide open back on a check down. Just throw it down to him. Don't try and force one in there, which is exactly what he tried to do. There was no need to do it at that point, and he did it. Tennessee comes up with the interception, and that's all she wrote.
I tried to get Byard as tactfully as I could to admit to me that when the Tennessee defensive players are on the field, they are anticipating the inevitable screw-up from Carson Wentz. And the most that he would say was, as to that interception in overtime, I was surprised he threw the ball. That was and I think everyone was, because as we showed, the guy was covered. There wasn't an open receiver there, and you had other guys you could have thrown to. And look, in just a tiny little bit of defense for Carson Wentz, he was trying to avoid the safety, and I assume he consciously took the risk. He was trading 2 for 7. But He knew his mistake was not just throwing it down, like you said. He should have just gotten rid of it, but he held it, and then he got swallowed, and he's thinking, I'm getting a safety here, get rid of the ball. And it just so happened it was caught and returned for a touchdown. But that's, it usually manifests itself in injury. But with Carson Wentz, he tries too hard to be Superman and extend the play and make something happen when it's past the point of anything good happening, and it's clearly in the territory of only bad things happening, Mike.
Well, listen, I agree, and that comes from thinking you have the ability to do it and having done it maybe a couple of times. It's just like running quarterbacks. They always think that they can get it done with their legs over their arms, or a gunslinging quarterback who thinks they can throw it through a defender, to get to their receiver. It's just that confidence, and what makes, I think, a player grow is understanding the situation. And I do think he understood, I can't give up 2 here, because not only we give up 2, we don't get the ball either. So I get that, but then there's a way to do it. They throw it into the ground as opposed to throwing it in the air. I mean, I don't understand it. And then again, the last play, the last interception, he's just trying to make a play and thinking he can zip it in. I think that's when you make that next step as a quarterback, is you think what you can do and you react to knowing what the reality of the situation is, and having to make that decision, by the way, in a split second. That's the key.
And, we see from Wentz some of the things we used to see from Jameis Winston, where he just tries to do more than he can. Right. And that's a recipe for disaster. You try to do more than you're physically capable of doing, and you're either going to get yourself injured or you're going to make these boneheaded mistakes. And to their credit, they drove down the field, and they were aided by that long pass interference call. Now, I think if Kevin Byard doesn't take out the receiver, he catches the touchdown there anyway.
Right.
So, if they had held them from 1st and goal at the 1, it would have looked brilliant. But it all works out for the Titans, it's funny because at one point last week, I think it was Darius Leonard from the Colts said it was a must-win game. And I asked Byard, what's it like to match the intensity of a team that views it as a must-win game? And he said, hey, I said it was a must-win game first for us because we got the Rams coming up on Sunday Night Football, and we just beat the Bills and the Chiefs. I thought this game was even bigger than that because it's division rival, it's in their building, and we've already beaten them once. If we want to basically do justice to what we've accomplished by beating the Bills and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks, we have to win this game. Kind of the opposite of what the Bengals did. The Bengals, by losing to the Jets, undermined everything they'd accomplished by beating the Ravens in Baltimore. The Titans recognized now isn't the time to let up. And they had their moment against the Jets. They learned what happens when you let up. And I think that loss to the Jets is going to help keep the Titans focused on the games that aren't the big games, Mike. Because if they want to be the 1 seed, they got to beat everybody, the good teams and the bad, and they can never have a letdown.
It's the biggest thing a player will first say to a team that wins a big game and are all, got the adrenaline going and they're all happy they won a big game. You put in all that work, you get the win. And it's what you say, and then it bleeds down to the players like Byard who echoes that. It doesn't matter if you got that big win if you screw up the next week. If you lose that game that you should win. If you don't take care of the business that you should take care of, then it becomes a what if. Okay, we did well there, but what if we didn't screw up here? Exactly where the Bengals are right now is where they are, where they could have been in that division to that's what we did. We let the Jets in this game, and we let the Jets come back and beat us. Well, Tennessee was in a position to say, we've had some big wins, and we don't need to be now of saying, okay, well, we got to take care of business here. So understand where you are, make those big wins worth it by winning the games, again, that you should win.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.